If you're a fan of the Battle Vault series on the channel, definitely check out the very first edition of the playmat, which you can get your very own copy right now on the AVAULT store. Also check out all the other awesome merch we got, and here's a special secret for you. Be sure to make an account right now to get an additional 5% off. Lastly, this wouldn't be happening if it weren't for all the support from you guys, so thank you all so much. Thanks to the BT14 Patamon and Yellow Vaccine support, we're gonna see a good old friend all the way back from BT7 make a comeback where we have Kazuchimon. Okay, so for our very first matchup today, we're going to be playing against Gamamon. And Gamamon is actually a pretty aggressive deck, has a lot of control as well, deletion and swing effects and lots of damage, which can be very surprising. But anyways, let's talk about our opening hand. We decided to keep it because it looks really good. All we really want to see is Patamon. The sooner we see Patamon, the faster we can cycle through our security, get information, look at what we can play, and then just go for it right there. We have 2 Emissary of Hopes, which is going to be really crucial for us for later on. We also have an Angemon as well in our hand, which we can potentially get into too, as well as we climb through our stack if we need to. And we just decide to hard play a Pillowmon, just a hard pass here. It doesn't really do too much against them because this Floodgate doesn't really counter Gamamon. It doesn't seem like Gamamon plays any effects anyways. But once we get into our Patamon, our next turn, we want to be able to push it out immediately as quickly as possible and look at our security stack. We're going to make sure, not only just trying to look for a level 4, but if we don't see a level 4, really important to keep in mind and try to remember what we have in there, because it's going to be crucial to our leading plays later on. We want to memorize what we have in there because we can potentially Digivolve into those cards and climb for our stack that way alternatively as well. So that's one of the really important things when you're playing any deck that's like Yellow Vaccine or any Patamon Engine type of deck overall here. So just quickly looping back, you guys may have noticed we actually just decided to Digivolve into Angemon on top of Patamon from our hand, paying its full cost without using its alternative Digivolution condition, just so we can choke our opponent to 1 memory, so then we can play and slow down the game pace a little bit, and then we're also able to punish them and counter Magna Angemon Ace them to get a free Digivolve and recover and take out their smaller Gamamon, which is pretty good for us because then we want to set up a little bit healthy security a little bit earlier on, because having a good amount of security stack is going to benefit us later on for our later combos, which we'll get into later as well. So here, they're just going to climb through their stack, and it sort of forces our opponent want to do something, which usually Gamamon is totally capable of doing, because they can push out, slide something underneath, gain a memory, draw a card, and potentially Digivolve. They're building a really strong red stack overall. They have the Battle Gamamon that gives Blitz, they have the other Battle Gamamon that gives Raid as well. So they can go into this Cannon Weissmon, basically, even though passing turn, just before passing turn, they gain the when Digivolving Blitz, and they can raid into our Magna Angemon Ace overall just from that. And by doing so, we have to give them Ace Overflow. They're going to gain a lot of memory back from that afterwards, but at least we can put something back into security thanks to Angemon's on deletion effect by placing something that's yellow and vaccine traits from our hand, and that sets up our security for later plays too. And thankfully we do have a Cupemon at the back in the raising. We have a TK established there too, and we can immediately just push out and go into our level 4 Geogray, play out this TK for free, which is absolutely crazy value. But I'm just making sure to double check what I have here in the resource. I can see myself there's a level 5 Outmon we can get into, there's a Venusmon we can get into as well at the same turn. So we're just going to cycle through all these combos and all these effects, and also make sure to use TK to grab something back, place something back in as well again, and then we could suspend him to sort of gain a memory at the same time there too. Now I want to talk about the memory TK I played a little bit earlier on. If you guys noticed, there was actually also a Patamon in there, which honestly, looking back, that would have been a more ideal play instead. I want to get into Rune mode just because it has a lot of pressure on deleting things, recovering, and really good at sort of like sometimes like closing certain games out, which I kind of wanted to get into, knowing that I was going to go into a level 6 such as Venusmon later on, and I'm just going to top it all off with a Rune mode. But honestly, looking back, I think I should just grab the Patamon instead, just because in a situation right here like this right now, we don't have a secondary level 3 that we can build a second stack into, just in case if they are able to get rid of our first stack here outside in the battle area, just in case. But anyways, we decided to go for a slower play once again. We wanted to use Emissary of Hope, letting us just pay 1 memory, and then we can go into a Venusmon for free, which is absolutely fantastic. We did chip away with Boutmon earlier on as well, because we do gain jamming thanks to Kiaramon, which we did remove a security during their turn. Fantastic combos when it comes to this. And our Venusmons is going to give them a blanket minus security 1 on the entire board right there into that Digimon. They do have 2 heroes set up there, which is really good because then hero can help them cycle more, Digivolve, gain more memory, and all they really need to is look for some form of level 6 to get into afterwards, and they're still pretty good. But our Venusmon is overall pretty well protected here. They can't do anything, and if they don't do anything, our plan was to go into the Rune mode, and then we were going to delete their stack, possibly with a swing the turn after the turn we go into Rune mode, and just slow down the game a little bit until we find our Kazuchimon or some form of different alternative win cons. Sometimes playing the Kazuchimon, this is a Kazuchimon deck just so you guys know, but sometimes if you don't see Kazuchimon early on, that's the whole purpose of having Venusmon, because it helps you slow down the game, control the board a little bit, so then you can find your other pieces and continue. We have TKs to work with here. We can grab things that we need later on again. We have physical training to continue our search as well. Right here, we made a little bit of a mistake, which I do apologize here, guys. The Kazuchimon was actually not supposed to be able to swing into Venusmon because of Venusmon's effect. When anything has a security modifier, this Digimon can't be attacked. There's no one attacking effects and there's no one Digivolving effects, but we got very confused. I guess during that moment, we were tunneled into thinking a lot about Raid, because Raid does bypasses Venusmon's effect, but we forgot that one important factor where we have to raid into a unsuspended Digimon. And it may look like it's a huge deal because we lost a big body right here, but I'm going to show you guys, even though our board advantage looks like it's not in a great state because we lost that Digimon that we're not supposed to, I'm going to show you guys that we're going to make a comeback right here, right now, from it by rebuilding. And luckily we did find a Patamon as well. So we're going to go for some crazy combos. Our security is still relatively healthy, and it's going to take quite a lot of resources for the opponent to at least get rid of them. And it seems like they want to continue to build a really strong stack on that one single stack of Kazuchimon. It is pretty big. There's a lot of red sources underneath. There's Regulus as well. I mean, yeah, they're just tucking in a lot of stuff underneath back to back, gaining memory, drawing cards, and they're just getting into their 3 memory, so then they can even potentially go into level 6 if they need to very easily, because Siriusmon costs 3 memory. Arcturusmon costs a little bit more, which is totally fine too. But as long as they go into either or, they can do some pretty neat combos. Moving on, which they go into Siriusmon here. They have the other hero, which even gives them like security +1, I believe, too. So they can swing for like essentially like 2 checks, tucking in Arcturusmon, which is great, but they don't have anything to delete on our board, which they're not getting the maximum value off their combo, but sooner or later they just need to get into this because potentially they might want to get into Proximamon. And honestly, this situation looks pretty good for us anyways, again, just because we don't have anything for them to pop on our side of the board. And yeah, so just contemplating on how they want to sort of pass their turn. We start at 3 anyways, and we have 2 physical trainings. We also have a TK to work with. We have a lot of resources, honestly. We have a level 4 we can climb into as well, and things are looking pretty okay for us. We're not really worried too much overall. Another thing I noticed was that they don't have a blocker with that Siriusmon either, and the Siriusmon is not even unsuspended, so they can't really do too much here, honestly. Again, like, they're gonna have to just find some way to pass their turn, play something, maybe Digivolve here. Apologies for that, but we realized it was a bit of a mistake there. They thought they had the warping Kazuchimon in their hand, which they apparently didn't in the end. So they tried to Digivolve into the other one, which wasn't the warping one. So luckily we caught that in time. So they were just trying to get into that one and they wanted to pass turn, but they went to Proximamon here. Again, it's quite okay for us because they can't delete anything, but they probably just want to set up a bit earlier on so they can go for this big stack. And then if we do play anything afterwards, they can try to pop it. So this is our 1 turn chance right here. We use Patamon, come out, we're going to cycle through our stack and take a quick look. Again, we're going to use the training to go into Bulkmon for free. We ran out of Emissary of Hope essentially, or we don't have any. We kind of used 2 early on, but thanks to physical training, we can go into this Bulkmon here. Now, what we have is a really crazy play. This is why Bulkmon and Kazuchimon combo is absolutely insane, because we can get into Kazuchimon and still retain our turn. We also find a hybrid in our hand. So here at this particular moment, I'm trying to see if there's a way to get into Kazuchimon and still have 2 memory afterwards, effectively trying to get into free. So with Bulkmon's effect, we're going to trash our own security. We're going to trash all 3 of them to reduce the dissolution cost by 3. So we only pay 2 of Kazuchi. Kazuchi's going to recover all the way back to 3 because we have 2 or less. We can use TK to gain a memory, Patamon and Hinobo to gain a memory as well. Now we have jamming, and we can swing for 2 checks, unsuspend because we're back at 3 security, and use hybrid to finish off the game just like that. Even without Venusmon, it doesn't matter right there, which is really cool about Kazuchimon on how you can finish games. Okay, so for the second game, we're going to be playing against Dark Knightmon, and Sam really liked the Kazuchimon deck because, you know, Yellow Vaccine is one of his favorite decks, and he really wanted to give it a try after playing the first game. So we actually decided to swap with each other and have him give it a try, and we can kind of see how he would play if there's anything different too when it comes to how he would pilot it. So of course, the idea is pretty much the same as before, where if you see Patamon in your opening hand, you want to keep it. If you don't see it, you want to try to mulligan into it at least, and make sure you have, you know, a good amount of TKs, physical trainings, and searching cards and whatnot, so that you can go into it. Right here, as he's pushing up with Patamon right off the bat, you know, he can go into Angemon or even Geograve, which is really good, and cycle through that way and Digivolve for free already and go for a crazy early game play and set up a security with even more level 4s. And he can really contemplate. Again, a very important thing is, as you're looking through your security, don't only just check for level 4s. He's also making sure that he's checking out his level 5s, and he knows there's also level 6s that he can sort of like access into. That's why you play Emissary of Hope here, allowing you to cover back and also getting into the Bautmon for 1 cost effectively. And at this moment, you guys can see he has a Kazuchimon there, and he can go for a crazy early game Kazuchimon play. As playing Kazuchimon, different to the last game you guys saw, which Kazuchimon sort of like pulled through towards the end, Kazuchimon is also just as good in the early stages. And the earlier you actually see it, the more aggression and offensive style you can actually go into, because potentially you can swing for 4 checks. And it's pretty crazy how he's able to do this in just turn 2. So here we quickly talked about and contemplated, you definitely actually want to use the Bautmon effect to, you know, reduce the Digivolution cost, because you want to set yourself up perfectly at the number 3 security point. And by doing so, he gets a little bit more extra memory to work with, and he can actually swing 2 checks once, unsuspend, and swing for another 2 checks and clear out 4 securities in turn 2 essentially from this combo, which is absolutely insane, which is really crazy. But unfortunately, as you guys can see, he did run into a Chikurimon, which is rather unfortunate, which de-digivolves the Chikurimon, the Kazuchimon back to down to the Bautmon. And I guess it just makes sense to use Bautmon to swing once more anyways, because it's unsuspended, utilizing the Kyaomon, which has jamming as well, which really helps out with this deck, which is absolutely fantastic right there. And then just all they have to do is just hard play a Kudamon and then just set up and give as little resource as possible to, you know, to the opponent, so then Dark Knightmon can't really do as much. Dark Knightmon does require quite a bit of memory sometimes. It has good board control, it can pop things, it can de-digivolve as well, which is kind of neat. But as you guys can see, like, there's not enough setup and as strong as like what Kazuchimon currently has. So they do go into a Dark Knightmon here via Immortal Ruler to Digicross from trash as well, which is kind of neat. De-digivolve the Bautmon, delete a Kudamon, and giving, you know, quite a bit of memory to work with here with 4. But their Dark Knightmon does have blocker as well, thanks to Nene. So it's kind of decent when it comes to like sort of board control. They can kind of like, you know, block attacks, slowly whittle you down from resources as well, and it can sometimes become quite of a more of a battle of control really. And Dark Knightmon now, thanks to the new Skull Knightmon, they can potentially go for like pretty aggressive plays, because they get extra security +1. They can actually close games a little bit quicker than before, which is the offensive side of things that was lacking from before. But anyways, with Angemon here, it's kind of good and decent too, because with Angemon and Dark Knightmon being a virus, you know, Sam is able to send it back to the bottom of the security, and that's even better because Dark Knightmon has a floating capability, and it's only applicable when it's gonna, you know, potentially get deleted. And because it's being sent by the security, they can't float back bodies out. So all Sam has to do is swing with the Angemon, as you guys can see, giving, you know, the Dark Knightmon player an extra security is totally fine there. But then they get to sort of like set up and cycle through more combos here, play a couple more TKs now, use physical training to find more pieces, and have a Patamon in the back ready to go again, ensuring that he has a level 4 that he can get into as well. Not to mention, because he played the TK and shoved away a Bulkmon underneath. So back to the Dark Knightmon here, you know, all they can really do is just like set up, search for their pieces, play smaller bodies, and it's really overall more of a reactive deck too. But anyways, starting at 3 memory, you know, they're able to go into, you know, a Bulkmon now here for free, thanks to that, you know, and get to like Digivolve, put something back underneath, putting the Bautmon back again, you know, potentially getting it into it again with Emissary of Hope, which he has in his hand. Gain a ton of memory with Patamon and the double TKs, and now they're at 6 memory. They can work with so many things, which is crazy. And then now go for the Emissary of Hope, go into Boutmon for 1 cost, Digivolve and draw. And I think what Sam really wants to do right now is he's back at the sweet spot 3 security point, and all he really needs to have is to find a Kazuchimon. And if he's able to find a Kazuchimon, he can go for that combo all over again and do a ton of checks and do a lot of damage and apply a lot of pressure. Keep in mind the Skull Knightmon Cavalier mode, I believe, or I can't remember exactly. There's so many different modes, but the Skull Knightmon on the board that they have does have blocker as well, so it can kind of stop attacks. And looks like he's not able to find the Kazuchimon, but instead he finds himself a Venusmon, which is also still kind of okay because you can still swing with jamming with Karamon here once again, and then give, as little memory again as possible to go into this Venusmon, Digivolve just for 2 costs thanks to physical training, and then give a blanket security -1 across the entire board. And there's nothing too much they can do. They can't even swing, but they can just set up with more Skull Knightmons on the board. Again, they're blockers, but that's totally fine. As long as Sam keeps at 3 security, thanks to the Boutmon Inheritable, he can always make 2 checks or 2 attacks per turn here at a time. And there's a lot of resources that he can work with, and he can just take it slowly from there on too, which is really, really nice. So decides to play another TK, setting up more, putting things away here, finding a Seraphi, which is a tech that I also included in this deck, which is kind of neat. Sometimes you don't see Kazuchi, Seraphi is just as good to get into as well. Kind of like just the typical yellow vaccine package stuff. Swing with Venusmon, unsuspend. They block with the Skull Knightmon, and it does have a pretty neat on deletion effect because it lets them play a Amano Tamer and tuck it underneath afterwards and save it, which is kind of cool. And then, all they can do is just block and sort of like stop them from attacking. Now, perfectly at 4 memory, this is why Shine Greymon Ruin Mode is just so good for most yellow decks, or even purple decks if you can ever get into. You just Digivolve like that, and then a whole blanket 5k across the board. Is also especially effective against Dark Knightmon because they have a lot of smaller bodies, with lower DP, and most of them are actually 5,000 DP or less, other than Dark Knightmon. So it's kind of hard for them, and all I could do was just pass and sort of like sit there. And now they can just go into a Bulkmon here afterwards, thanks to having it in their hand or whatever. And then they have TKs, gaining a ton of memory, swing 2 checks right there, and finish the game with Ruin Mode just like that.
Oh, one more really important thing. The new year is around the corner, so that means the AVAULT Store promotions are gonna be gone. So don't wait, go there right now and check it out. If you wanna see more gameplay videos, be sure to check this video out right here, right now as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and probably in the new year, and see you next time.